Hey, welcome to Pardon My Hunch, the show about the real decisions we make in business and life and the gut instincts we trust or wish we hadn't ignored. As always, this show is brought to you by the Vibe Method. It's a process that we use and teach marketers and innovators to help them nail a unique customer story and prove it will sell before they ever build, launch, or scale. To find out how we can help you nail a killer vibe for an idea or your brand before you go live, you can go to gohunch.com. Now let's get on to the show. Today we have, here we go, Sajal Javid.
Sajal Javid,
I
yes.
want to get your name right. It's like, how many times do I need to say it? With us today, I'm super pumped about this conversation we're going to continue having. She is the Chief Human Resources Officer at the Alley Theater in Houston. Yeah.
Yes.
As well as the owner of InclusivEdge Consulting, providing fractional HR leadership, as well as a longtime mentor and consultant in the culture and leadership space, specifically focusing on women, empowerment. I'm very pumped up from our prior conversation. I feel
Thank
pretty
you.
motivated today as a strong woman who needs to be confident and remain confident. But there's just so much I could say. I know you're a speaker and have a book coming out, all that things, but welcome to the show. I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad you're here. Yeah. Did I get anything I leave out?
No, I think that's good.
Oh, I did leave something out, which I think is so cool. Um, you come from a social worker. Those are your roots, right? So you were a social
Yes.
worker, and that really just plays, I think, a strong role in based on the stories you've told and your ability to understand and empathize and see connections and all the things that are so critical if you're going to mentor and consult on culture and people and helping people grow and thrive and all the things. But I know you mentioned you were a child protective services, right? In New York City for a while.
Yes, I did that. I did the Child Protective Services for 5 years in New York. Then I went to Columbia University to get my master's in social work, nonprofit management, focus on HR. And I transitioned into HR from there. So what I loved about that was the intersection of, social work and HR, because like I said, we spend so much time at our work. So we need, 10 hours, 8 hours, whatever. And that's such a huge part of our lives every single day. So for me, it's very important to have a workplace that is there for us and can help us grow and develop and everything. So I think that's something that's very central to me, being a social worker and being an HR professional. I mean, I love the intersection of both of these things.
Oh God, I love it. Being in my age range, I have lots of youngins in their 20s who are, either informally or formally requesting some advice, or we've got situations going on and they're, new in the corporate world and all the things. And one of the things I just think is you spend way too much time at work
Yeah.
to not feel good about it. You're not going to always love it. It's not always going to feel like, a dream job, but we spend a lot of time there to not feel like we're making an impact or it's a fit and all these things. And I think it's important for, people to keep in mind. And it's in this whole, it's just a job. It's okay, well, I spend a lot of time at this job. So for me, it's
Well,
important.
what's funny? I did not realize before jumping into HR that, I was, doing social work and doing like dealing with people and needs assessment and therapy and all of that stuff, is that coming into HR, you also deal with a lot of that stuff with employees. So that background kind of gives you a little edge because you're like, okay, you can do a needs assessment, you can understand, and you also know how to maneuver it if you want to forward it somehow in a different way. But at least I think it gives you just a different skill set. Personally think it does give you an edge, a little different skill set. So I am passionate about that part. And like we talked about, I am very passionate about women and leadership, and the growth of women, because I think we were talking about it before, was that we as women are sometimes our own worst enemies because we try to shrink our own voice. We try to overthink, we try to judge ourselves. We, in our own brain, we're never good enough for something unless 100% of something is checked off. So I think for us is just understanding that you know what, we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to do that. We just need to move forward with what we have and own our space and own our what we have, our voice. And like I said, don't over explain ourselves. Don't apologize with things we have never done. And just walk in there and be confident and just say, you know what, this is my voice, this is who I am, and I'm going to own it.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And you know, this, like you reminded me earlier, there are real external factors that
Mhm.
are controlling how if we end up sort of beating ourselves up or not being confident or over explaining or apologizing too much, all the things. It's like it's like we're bred this way, culturally, and sometimes just we can't control most of the things that trigger our emotion and behavior. We just most of that is all automatic, right? Like from a behavioral science standpoint, but first step is just being aware they're happening and reminding yourself that okay, these things are real, and maybe I should be more confident in the situation, and maybe I shouldn't be apologizing. But you know, so I just love that. For me, it's like listening to you. I think if I could take away one tip to someone, it would be like when you're feeling these things, or when you see that you're doing these things, remember, or when you're getting her down on yourself, remember that some of these are just like we're kind of ingrained. It's ingrained in us to behave this way, and so just be aware of it. You know, that's what you
I,
helped me with today.
well, I mean, I know we were talking about it, but like I just want to say we all have our journeys. We have different journeys, and where what we have navigated, what we have gone through in life, where we are today. And you know what? We cannot beat ourselves about what happened in the past, but the best thing that we can do for ourselves as women, is to learn and to move forward with it and say, you know what? I dealt with it. Because of that, I'm stronger for it. I'm going to own my own space. I'm going to acknowledge my journey. I'm going to acknowledge my limitations. I'm going to acknowledge the strengths that propelled me to move forward. And then I'm going to let go of any limitations I have, because that's one thing that's going to help me. And then you know what are my strengths? Let's look at that. Let's bring those in, integrate them. And then you know what? I have a voice. This is my voice. This is my journey, my life, my voice, my experiences, and using my voice. And you know what? Speaking my through my experiences, my voice, and giving somebody an insight into something, you know. And then how does my biggest thing was, how has my journey in life, that I have had so much roadblocks and so much, you know, to go through, how has that um, changed my life, and how has that translated into my leadership journey on being a woman and being somebody that's here as an executive role, and then also as somebody that has their own business and wants to run this business. And you know, being in HR can be very daunting. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's a very lonely place to be in, because you're at the top and you are the one that makes decisions, and people don't want to be with you. They
Yeah.
don't want to talk to you because they're like, oh, I don't want to say anything wrong because that's
Right.
it. You know, it's like
Not
I
just a
ask,
leader, but an HR, right? It's like
yeah,
there's
and
an extra
if I email
shield.
somebody and I say, hey, by the way, you have a minute, can we come talk? People come to my office like literally like dreading because they're coming into the principal's office.
Oh,
That's how I feel. You know, I've made my office with flowers and with couches and stuff, but that doesn't
oh,
help, you know?
yeah.
So it's just by the sheer definition of it, no matter how good you are, just because of the role that you're in, it's always going to be a daunting place to be in. It's always going to be that way. But I think what we can do is as being in this position, I to understand it, that that's what it is, and then make it as less daunting as you can for somebody, and see how you can support your team, how you can support other women, and how you can guide and coach and you know and give them guidance so they can move forward.
And now I have more empathy than ever for all of my HR friends in my life, in the past, like it's like, I think it's lonely at the top in general. The more,
The
advanced you
higher
get,
up you are, yes.
it's lonely, but especially I never thought about it that way. Gosh, in HR, you really like, who can you talk to? Like,
I mean, you really can't. I mean, you are really, really limited. You cannot talk to a lot of people.
yeah.
And you're right. When you're at that executive level, it is lonely because you have to make all these decisions. And there's a lot of times where, you know, you second guess yourself, you judge yourselves. And then especially if you have the HR thing all there also, then that's a different lens on it also. Um, However, I feel like with that authority that you have, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it also, because you have to learn and grow and develop yourselves. And actually, I think be very strong in yourself to understand your limitations and your strengths so you can actually give the right guidance and maybe do the right things for yourself and your organization and for people that you are talking to and you're guiding and you're coaching.
Well, like I said, I'm like furious notes. I've got all these thoughts. I do. So, quick side question.
Okay.
We do you have 10 more minutes, 10 more minutes? I
Sure.
just looked at the clock. Okay. I didn't want to disrupt the initial conversation. And then I love where this has gone. And I'm like, oh gosh, I'll still come and ask you like one question I'd love to get from you if you have a few more minutes. We'll just,
Okay.
I wanted to make sure though. I checked that before I just kept going. I'd assumed you were good. All right. Okay. So I have a question for you. It's really it's the core curiosity or question that is the I don't know basis for this show really, but also like the crux of um, I think every story that is a story of someone making a business decision or a life decision. The show's a little bit more about business decisions, but it could be either, and whether they have data around them or not, ultimately there's an instinct or an intuition pulling you in a direction. So my question is, through this journey, either you've experienced this or maybe someone, that you've been consulting with, but like, is there a moment where you've had a strong hunch or instinct about something, as far as either a decision or a move to make and, either followed it and it worked out, or maybe you ignored it and in retrospect, wish you hadn't, but learned something. I'm curious what you'd share in response to that.
So, you know, I think I think women have great instincts. Um, the problem that sometimes women have is that they don't trust their instincts. They don't trust their gut. I think this is where the misalignment happens. Um, and I think I think when you have a feeling in your gut and you're like something is not right, you should listen to it because you know what? If your gut is telling you it's not right, it is not right. And we need to trust our instincts. Um, I, earlier in my career, yes, I've made some um, errors in judgment and decision because I was young and I did not trust even though I knew something was wrong, but somebody said, no, 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 do this. And I listened and I did it. And I was like,
But
oh
yeah.
my God, I should not have done it. And then I was mad at myself and I called myself so many different words in so many different languages. Um, you know, but I think slowly and gradually learning about yourself and your strengths also means that you trust your instincts and your gut and you say, you know what, if it does not sound right, it is not right. I am going to look at it. And then when you have that, you consider all the possibilities that can happen, what things can go wrong. You assess everything. And based on that assessment, however much, whatever data you have, whatever information you have, you just go ahead and make a decision. And then you do not second guess yourself. And then you hold your decision. I think it's very important as a leader that you have. So I think the biggest thing about being a leader is that you surround yourself with people who are good at the things that they do if you're not good at something, and that you are open and you listen to what feedback and what information other people provide you. And then you're able to assess, and then you're able to make a decision going forward, and you can go ahead and do that. Also, in the same breath, what is important is if you make a mistake, you own up to it and you say, you know what, I did not handle that appropriately. I understand I made a mistake and I will do better. I think that is two things that I would tell people, that, you know what, own your space, think about it, make a decision. But if you do something wrong, then own that also, own your mistake, and then do something about it. Because people are very forgiving if you make a mistake and you own your mistake, but people are not forgiving if you don't own your mistake. Because to me, if somebody doesn't own their mistake, what that means is you're not cognizant of what you did wrong. Because if you're not cognizant of what you did wrong, you don't know what you did wrong, then how are you going to fix it?
And maybe it was, and I'm thinking of two instances that come to mind for myself. And one is very personal, but I think like it's almost like it wasn't necessarily what I did wrong. It's like I I beat myself up over like I did this wrong, but if I go back and think about it, and given the context of the situation I was in, and I've had people sort of remind me of this, but I have to remind myself, given the context, what I was doing was denying some things, ignoring red flags,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately, all I can learn from that is to just recognize, be more and more aware, and maybe just stop. I'm like, I think forward to a full. So I've got like plans A, B through Z already ready. I'm already thinking, what if, what's the outcome of this? What's the next step? And sometimes I've learned for myself from this previous situation I went through, stop. Everything will work out. You have to stop and pay attention to the red flag. And if that means you have to actually change your mind about something that you're about to do and you think there's going to be a bunch of fallout, assume the fallout will not be there. That's like what I've learned. So, because like the situation that came to mind for me immediately was, it would hard if you, I'm not going to share the whole story today, but like it would be, I made a bad choice, the wrong decision. I wish I would have listened to those red flags and not hired this person. That's
Yep.
essentially the story, right? But like, what good came out of it? I don't know. It's like this whole, like you said, I'm like overthinking and I'm like, it's my natural inclination to want to dig in and figure out everything that. It's like when I study launches, like what are all the things? There's never just one thing. I don't know if I'm making any sense at all, given this is your expertise.
No, no, no. See, as women, we do tend to minimize the red flags sometimes because we want everything to be peachy. So we're like, you know what? No, it's okay. It will, and
Yeah.
I'm not okay. So maybe I'm going to shoot myself in my foot, but I'm just going to say that sometimes, women think, oh, about guys, like, you know what? Oh, I will change him. No, you cannot change a guy. A guy is a guy who he is. If he's not there, he's not going to change. This is what my philosophy is. The basic thing does not change. Little itty bitty things will change. But my whole thing is we sometimes tend to let go of the red flags because we're like, okay, we can change it. But that's what comes to bite us,
Mm.
you know. So and you know what? But it's okay. We are going to make mistakes in life. I am one person that says this is okay. If you make a mistake, that's fine. But own your mistake. But the biggest thing is learn from it and don't make it again. You know, I think this is where we need to move forward and own up. So when you're asking about some gut instincts and all of that, and I think this is where I say we need to trust ourselves, given the situation, the circumstances, whatever we have, make a decision, trust ourselves, trust our instincts, trust our strengths, trust our brain, and make the decision ourselves.
What are your thoughts on concrete evidence? Because I know you had mentioned a time when like in your past, when something felt off, something wasn't quite right, maybe regarding people, and then you even though you wait for the evidence, in that situation, can you remember personally, like, if has there ever been a time where the evidence didn't match, or
Well,
it's just
yeah.
why am
So
I waiting?
no, so early in my career, when I was not at this level and well, I still have a boss, but, and I was still new and, we do a lot of investigations and stuff in HR. And, I said, I have all of this information. And, my boss was like, well, just go ahead and just, don't do anything with it and just leave it. And just gave me a completely different decision to make. I did not feel I was at that level where I could, um, ask my boss or dispute his decision. Especially me being young at that time. But now, ever since the last so many years, I've been at this position. And yes, if I make a decision, I still have a boss. But if I say, okay, I say, what do you think? I think this is what we need to do. And if we have different opinions, then I'm like, okay, why are you thinking that? Why are you thinking that way? Because this is what I think would be the best approach. But what I'm saying is, I am confident enough to question that now in a very respectful way, but confident
Yeah.
enough to question it and say, you know what, I don't think this is the best approach. Now, if my boss feels that we still have to do it with the way the boss wants it to be done, then fine, we'll do it that way. But at least I've lodged my dissent and saying, you know what, I don't think that is the right approach or that's the best approach. But that comes with knowledge, that comes with confidence, that comes with age, that comes with a lot of different things which you don't have. So that's why when I was talking about it and I said, own your voice, you
Mhm.
know, that is your voice. Own your strengths, understand your limitations, educate yourself, stand on firm ground. If you believe in something, stand in it. You don't have to be disrespectful or rude to question something. But if something is not feeling right, then question it. Don't just
Yeah.
take it. Because if it's not sitting right with you, then guess what? There is something wrong with it. If it's not sitting right.
Exactly. If it doesn't feel right, it's something is not right. It might
Exactly.
not be relevant once you kind of poke in. I was going to ask you I was thinking as we were talking, I was like, oh gosh, I have a question for her. But I actually think you answered. I was going to play something back for you. The question that was running through my head, as you were talking about, like, with wisdom and experience, and now having gone through many things, I feel much more confident. I'm going to bring it up, all these things. But when you're, 'cause my whole origin story of why I even started this company starts decades ago when it had to do with a product launch, and I was a consultant handing them the data, and everything looked fine. And they knew that what they wanted to do, but it didn't feel right to me. But I, at the time, didn't really feel like I had anything to go on otherwise, right? So, like, and I didn't have the reps I have now and the wisdom, and I have obviously lots of intel. I'll put this data right aside and I'm going to read you 5 reasons. Yeah, I could be that now. So my question that was going through my head was, gosh, what would be the tip for somebody who's newer or younger who, there is intimidation because someone is more senior, or because you're trying not to, like, rock the boat in the corporate world. There's a lot of that in corporate America where it's like leadership wants this. We need to just do it. So, and what would be I was going to ask you what the tip would be for someone in a younger position who doesn't really, they just know something feels off. And it feels like it's as simple as there is more harm in saying nothing than there is and at least saying why it doesn't feel right and admitting you're not quite sure, but you wanted to bring this to their attention. Like, you can't, my regret is I didn't say anything back in my story 3 decades ago. Like, what would be I don't know if I'm even on track on what you would suggest to someone younger.
Well, I think it's all in how you frame it. If you are younger, then of course you can't question somebody's authority, right? If somebody's in an authority position. However, you can frame it as a learning opportunity, right? So you can say, you know what, I am looking at this thing and this is
Mm.
all the information I have. And based on this, this is how I think I should handle it. What do you suggest? And if the person says something else, and you can say, okay, um, uh, can you please elaborate on that, or can you make me understand how you reach that conclusion or that decision? Because I'm trying to grow my skills and I want to understand how to handle something going forward. So I think it's all in the framing. And if you don't feel good with it, you can say, I hear you. I understand what you're saying, but I still feel like maybe this is something that we should explore in a different way. What do you think? I think when you it's all in the framing. You can frame it in that way where you're not coming across as something, but you're also saying, well, you know what, this I don't understand. This is not sitting well with me. How can we do something about it? And then maybe that will make the other person think, say, well, you know what, I'll give a different view and say, well, this is what I thought about it. What do you think about this thought process that I have? And you can ask their thought process. So I think asking it in a way, when you're younger, I think that is the approach that you should take. And I don't know, do you remember the my big fat Greek wedding?
Oh my gosh, yes.
When she said that we are the neck
Oh,
women? I think that's what
yeah. Okay, I was gonna say I love
that
that
we move
movie.
that we
Now I
that we
know which.
that we
Yes.
move the head. So what I'm saying is, you know what? At that point, you can be the neck.
Yeah, exactly. This is like the most. I mean, if we're gonna get down to, I have a friend that always says brass tacks, but like a very tangible and practical tip that you could give someone. It's like, okay, well, if you're feeling like you're questioning, you're going to come across as insert any of these, emotional feelings, insecure. I'm going to look like I'm challenging. I'm going to look to this, to that. Put it all aside to say, like, I just want to learn. This feels off and I'd love to learn from you. I mean, that is like gold right there. I mean, it's an ego stroke too, in case they're right in thinking that the person doesn't want to listen to somebody young.
Well,
I think
when
it's,
you ask, okay, so this is the thing. People love to talk, especially if you are putting them in a position of authority. They would love to talk. So if like you're questioning it, but if you frame it in that way where you're not questioning them, but asking for their guidance and their opinion and their authority, then they were going to give it to you. And then you can kind of question it in that, in that way where it
but it's
doesn't come
perfect.
across.
We call this sometimes strategery. I borrow that from Will Ferrell on Saturday Night Live, back when he imitated George Bush. Strategery. I think that's like our satire for sometimes you just have to pull out, it's all about how you frame it. So you can,
Well, we have to, I mean, honestly speaking, it's life is all about pivoting. So it's just making pivots. It's just pivoting your approach to different things. And based on the scenario that you're in, you cannot have one approach to everything. You have to pivot in the situation that you're in and who you're talking to. So understanding that, having that that brain to understand that, you know what, I may have to pivot based on the situation I'm in and who I'm talking to and what is happening. And just kind of like I said, but that is why I said it's very important for you to know your own strengths and your own limitations and your own self so that you know how you can pivot.
love it. Well, I could keep it going. Now I want to get into theater and the Alley Theater in Houston, all the things, and I can't keep you all day. So we'll save that for
No.
next time. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here. I'm not kidding you. Like I feel like, oh, I needed her today. So that's how
Oh,
I
thank
feel.
you so much. I feel honored. I am very
Oh,
happy to be here talking to you. I think this was a good discussion. I hope so. And I
oh,
hope I had some nugget for somebody that they can
yes.
use.
That's all I want, is for there to be a nugget and all of these conversations that can help somebody else. So thanks for being here. Quick question before we go. What is the best way for someone to get in touch with you? It might be, I mean, I actually know a few companies who could benefit from fractional HR leadership,
Oh,
or consulting, mentoring, all the things.
yeah.
What's the best way?
So the best way would be either LinkedIn. My profile is on LinkedIn. They can send me an email. They can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or they can send me an email. So whichever way possible. My website is right now in the process of coming up. So once that is up, that would be a good way to contact. But I think so far you contacted me over LinkedIn. So
Yeah, I did. That's
so
right.
I think
Hey, still
yeah.
old school reaching out. Okay. Well, that will be in the show notes in terms of the way to get in touch with you and find you on LinkedIn. As a reminder to everybody listening, the show again is brought to you by the Vibe Method, and that is our process. We use and we teach it as well to marketers, innovators to help them nail their unique customer story and also prove that their unique angle will sell before they go live with the big thing. So to find out more about how we can help you nail your killer vibe before you go live, you can go to gohunch.com. The link to that will be in the show notes too. And I always like to end on, one thing. So until next time, everybody remember the worst thing you can do with a hunch is ignore it.